moment of magic, when the whole round earth turns toward the sun. And here's a blessing. The days will be longer and brighter now, even before the winter settles in to chill us. Now is a moment of magic, when people beaten down and broken, when nothing left but misery and candles and their own clear voices, kindle tiny lights and whisper secret music. And here's a blessing. The dark universe is suddenly illuminated by the lights of the menorah, suddenly ablaze with the lights of the Kinara, and the whole world is glad and loud with winter singing. Now is the moment of magic, when an eastern star beckons the ignorant toward an unknown goal. And here's a blessing. They find nothing in the end but an ordinary baby, born at midnight, born in poverty, and the baby's cry, like bells ringing, makes people wonder as they wander through their lives what human love might really look like, sound like, feel like. Now is the moment of magic, and here's a blessing. We already possess all the gifts we need. We've already received our presents. Ears to hear music, eyes to behold lights, hands to build true peace on earth and to hold each other tight in love.
Miracles, magic, blessings. All terms that get thrown around quite a bit this time of year, and all terms that I know some Unitarian Universalists are uncomfortable with. Some of the naturalists and humanists and atheists among us might say, don't we believe in reason and science? That nothing happens that is not explainable by natural laws? And then some of the mystics and theists and pagans might reply, there are things that science simply cannot explain. The natural order of the universe is evidence of the divine, not in contrast to it. Miracles and magic and blessings abound. It's always a challenge to be in relationship with those who believe differently than we do, particularly during this holiday season. Whatever you celebrate, whether you think the holidays are full of magic or malarkey, there are some great spiritual lessons that can be found in this time of year and its stories. Lessons that require us neither to believe in any power beyond the natural order, nor to give up belief in such things. For today, we will call them ordinary miracles. Those magnificent gifts that we notice around us when we engage in that most difficult of spiritual disciplines, paying attention. Ordinary miracle, the first. Brunaboyne, Ireland, 5,000 years ago. In the warm months, this is a lush green river valley, but it is winter now. The winds are cold. Frost browns the grass. The people huddle together in their houses, wondering if it will ever be warm again. One winter morning, long before the sun has risen, the people of the village rise and wrap their warmest skins around them. Mothers bundle their babies close. Elders move slowly to work the frost out of their joints. Together, they file out of the village and down into the valley, their torches flickering in the frigid wind. They see almost nothing ahead of them for a long time. But then someone whispers, "Look, there it is." Through the inky black of the pre-dawn night, a massive domed outline begins to emerge. The youngest ones ask what it is, and the elders whisper back, "That is the cairn where the ancestors dwell, where their bodies are buried." It has long passages that lead to interior chambers, beautiful carvings lining its walls. It took 300 of our people almost 20 years to build it, hauling stone and sand from far away. As their procession draws closer, other streams of flickering light snake toward the mound from the hills on all sides. People from the neighboring villages who have also risen in the dark and cold this morning. There must be thousands gathering silently around the mouth of the tomb. As they approach, the people extinguish their torches, and thick darkness envelops the crowd. Among them, there are some whose hearts ache at the sight of the cairn. They remember their loved ones recently laid to rest within. Others rub their hands and pull their furs and skins closer, cursing the cold. Perhaps it has been a hard year, the harvest small and the frost early. Everyone huddles together in the dark, which seems like it will last for all eternity. But slowly the sky begins to lighten. First, deep purple and dusty rose, and then explosions of red and peach and gold and orange as the sun lifts itself over the horizon. The people watch intently as the first rays hit an opening above the cairn's doorway. This solstice day only, the shortest day of the year, the light aligns perfectly with the long stone passageway. The rays pierce through 60 feet of stony darkness and illuminate the inner chamber. The people watch for 17 long minutes as the light of hope and resurgent life and peace penetrate even into the very home of death deep in the cairn. They knew that it would happen today, as it does every year. And yet, as it does, they feel the throbbing pulse of something out of the ordinary. Or maybe simply the essence and the energy of the ordinary. Call it magic, call it awe, call it paying attention. But as those rays pierce the darkness, precisely, exquisitely illuminating the depths of the cairn, the people raise a wild and joyful cheer. They make prayers of thanksgiving and sing hymns of praise. The world has turned once again. The dark of winter will not last forever. Ordinary miracles. The perfect cycles of the sun and moon leaning always toward balance. The things that become clear in the light and the wisdom that we gain in the dark. The impulse deep within us to gather in reverence, small beings made of earth and breath and sunlight, momentary participants in that vast cosmic dance that swirls and circles always round and round and round.
Come down from the hills, declare the fighting done. Be bold, declare victory, even when the temple is wrecked and the tyrants have not retreated, only coiled back like a snake, prepared to strike again. Come down, try to remember a life gentled by daily acts of domestic faith, the pot set to boil, the bed made up, the table set in calm expectation that when the sun sets, we will still be here. Come down and settle. Unlearn the years of hiding. Light fires that can be seen for miles, that dance and sparkle and warm the frozen marrow. Set lamps in the window. Declare your presence, your loyalties, the truths for which you do not expect to have to die. It would take a miracle, you say, to carve such a solid life out of the shell of fear. I say, you are the stuff from which such miracles are made.
Ordinary miracle the second. It is 139 years before the Common Era. The land of Israel has been conquered and subsumed into the Syrian Empire under the rule of the tyrannical Antiochus IV. As any good oppressor knows, the best way to crush the rebellious will of a dominated people is to strip them of their hope and their culture. So the king removes the Jewish high priest. He sicks his powerful military on them at the slightest whiff of dissidence. He outlaws worship. He burns the scrolls of Jewish law and forces the people to break their rules of diet and Sabbath. It is a campaign of humiliation and terror. In a village called Modin, the ousted priest has settled to live out his final days. Antiochus sends his mercenaries there. They capture the old man and bring him to the center of town, where they have built an altar to their gods. "Make sacrifices here," they cry, but he refuses. Instead, he draws his sword. His sons and his friends spring to his side. Some are killed while standing their ground. Others escape to caves in the hills. The soldiers are chased away, the altar smashed, and the Jews flee. But they begin to form an army, a resistance, a few thousand strong. The old priest calls forth as their leader a young man, son of Jacob and Sarah, called Judah Maccabee, whose name means "he who is like you, O God." And they march forth, knowing that they will likely meet a bloody death at the hands of the 40,000 soldiers who have been ordered to crush the whole Jewish people. And yet, in battle after battle, the Maccabees prevail. They push the Syrians back until they have reclaimed their holy city of Jerusalem. When the fighting is done, the survivors stand before the temple. As they enter, they weep. This place that was once safe and sacred is fouled, defiled, broken, and vandalized. But Judah takes a plank of wood, and then another and another. He builds a new altar and consecrates it on the 25th day of the month of Kislev in the Jewish year 3622. To mark the sacred space, they must light a menorah, the traditional candelabra that burns day and night. The old one has been destroyed, and so they fashion a new one out of cheap, flimsy metal. When they go to add the oil that will feed its flame, they discover that there is only one vial left, only enough for one day. It will take 8 to produce a new supply. Here, they pause. They have lost so much, suffered so much. Custom says that the light must burn, always without ceasing. Yet it has been dark for so long now, ever since the temple was defiled. These are extenuating circumstances, aren't they? Can God really expect them to live as normal, make their sacrifices, and perform their rituals? What is the use of custom, of tradition, of normalcy in the wake of so much trauma and destruction? But Judah strikes a spark, kindles a tiny flame that he lifts to one single wick. They will light the lamp. They will reclaim their routines even in the swirling aftermath of chaos. They will create sacred space, even in the burned out ruins of war. In the wake of devastation, they will live as defiant witnesses to the enduring, sustaining power of hope. Ordinary miracles. Not the lamp that burned for 8 days, not the military triumph of a ragtag army. There is no miracle, no magic or blessing in war and slaughter. But in the delicate seedlings of hope that still stubbornly push their way through the cracks of even the most broken of hearts. In the resiliency of memory, the tenacity of tradition, the fierceness of a community that knows the oppressor may conquer their bodies and their lands, but never their spirits. It would take a miracle, you say, to carve such a solid life out of the shell of fear. I say, you are the stuff from which such miracles are made.
For so the children come, and so they have been coming. Always in the same way they come, born of the seed of man and woman. No angels herald their beginnings. No prophets predict their future courses. No wise men see a star to show where to find the babe that will save humankind. Yet each night a child is born is a holy night. Fathers and mothers, sitting beside their children's cribs, feel glory in the sight of a new life beginning. They ask, where and how will this new life end? Or will it ever end? Each night a child is born is a holy night, a time for singing, a time for wondering, a time for worshiping.
Ordinary miracle the third. 2,000 some odd years ago, ancient Palestine, in a small town called Bethlehem, a place important to nobody but the Jews, whose ancient scriptures prophesy that here the Messiah will be born. Such an earth-shattering event will no doubt occur with great fanfare and celebrations. After all, as the prophet has said, he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Of the greatness of his government, there will be no end. But life is often more ambiguous than prophecy. A young woman, a girl really no more than 14 or 15, disgraced and shunned by her people because she is unmarried and with child. A young man, her beau, overwhelmed yet steadfast, faithful to their love and her honor, even in the thick morass of his doubts. When the contractions begin, the pain she feels is real and deep and far from glamorous. Her son is birthed in blood and sweat on the floor of a stable, away from family and the comforts of home, mundane, routine, and utterly human. And yet, as these young parents gaze at their child, they know he is precious, that his life will be special and he will do great things. They will do anything to keep him safe, to shelter him from a world so full of fear and violence and oppression. They love him as they have never loved another creature. And for a few moments, everything is perfect and safe and full of magic. Ordinary miracles. The first cry of a baby announcing itself to the world. The parent who holds their newborn child, heart filled to overflowing with a love deeper than anything they have ever known. The hope that each new life brings. Every baby born with unbounded potential to save our world, create more love, build peace and justice. Every child born one more Redeemer. But miracles are not all there is. One early morning, the young father awakens in a cold sweat. I dreamed the king was going to kill our son. We've got to take him, got to run away. And so, in the early pre-dawn light, the little family flees. They make their way on foot and on donkey to Egypt, the land their ancestors fled so long ago. They leave everything they know, lose everything they once had, but it is a small price to pay for the safety of their child. Then word comes. Their fears were not unfounded. King Herod, frenzied with paranoia, has issued his decree. Kill all the boys, 2 years and younger, in Bethlehem and its vicinity. Perhaps he fears the loss of power. Perhaps he seeks vengeance. Perhaps he has simply never known love. Who knows why people commit unspeakable acts? The motivation is less important than the impact. The little family hears the news with mixed emotions. Horror at this slaughter of innocents, grief for friends and family who have suffered such loss, relief that their own son has been spared, bewilderment that such unthinkable violence could happen in the place that they once called home. There is a strange and terrible parallel between this tale from long ago and the emotions so many of us are holding today in the wake of Friday's shooting. Whatever the era, whoever the perpetrator, however close or far away from us it happens, the slaughter of the innocents is an affront to everything we hold sacred. It is the antithesis of a miracle. It is not a part of any divine plan. It is not a test of faith, and it is not God's choice to spare some and forsake others. It was then, as it is now, simply incomprehensible, heartbreaking, and worthy of our anger and grief. And yet, it is not all there is. Violence does not stop time, and it cannot quell life's throbbing impulse to spring forth. While we grieve, another child is born somewhere, full of potential and hope and promise, born one more Redeemer. Not a replacement, no, not a canceling out of evil, but an opposite, a reminder that life is good and sweet and persistent, and will not surrender in the face of evil. Ordinary miracles. The way our children make us better, more open, less selfish than we ever would have been alone. The way our hearts burst and overflow with compassion for people we have never met across chasms of time and space. The human impulse to respond with service and love in the face of the most unspeakable of tragedies. The fact that in spite of all that would break our spirits and corrupt our souls, the vast majority of us do not succumb. We do not allow the divine spark with which we were born to be extinguished. Ordinary miracles. The ways we can heal as individuals and as communities, even after our hearts have been broken open wide. The fact that in spite of everything, in spite of all we have lost, we can still proclaim the words of Sophia Lyon-Fahs. Each night a child is born is a holy night. A time for singing, a time for wondering, a time for worshiping. My friends, there is much to mourn. But in spite of it all, we are not lost. We are redeemed, brought back from the brink of despair and meaninglessness by life's perpetual renewal, by hope's invincible light, by love's unfathomable depths that bind us together, hold us close, and never, ever, ever let us go. May we all feel that love, and may we all be redeemed. Blessed be Ashe and Amen. It's good to be in a place where we can share